Okay, I'm going to show you how to do the Afterthought heel on the loom. Now you can do a full sock on your adjustable loom like this, but you'll need 2 wedges on a universal loom, and you'll need to set it up for however many pegs you're working on. I am, because it works a little faster for me to go on the round loom, and if you're just wanting to work the heel, and you can do everything on the round loom and then put it into the universal loom, which is the 8-inch universal loom. I believe it's 56 pegs and 2 wedges, and this is a 3/8 inch gauge. You can do the same thing with the 4th inch universal that's coming out, that I believe has 72 or 74 pegs, and you just need to order an extra wedge. Let me tell you, these extra wedges are going to be wonderful, because the concept I'm going to show you to do an Afterthought heel is the same concept you do if you want to go and do a toe at the end that decreases down to a point and then drawstring. So it's your drawstring toe. It's the same concept you're going to use if you want to do the toe like this, okay? But instead of doing all what I'm fixing to show you on here, you will just you can do it all the way around loom and then transfer your stitches over to this, and you do the same thing. Or you can do the full sock on this and then you just decrease down like I'm going to show you. So you will need one of these. You cannot do it on the round loom without doing this. You'll need the 2 wedges for the decreasing, okay? So keep that in mind. Alright. I find it's going to be a little easier to do the Afterthought on the round to get it set up, to kind of get it prepped. You are going to need your strip of paracord. Smitten Kittens showed this concept of using the paracord to do a thumb on a fingerless glove, and I thought it was brilliant. It was seamless transition, and where I found the challenge was on this one is once you took off your stitches and then you went to cast back on, you'd have a gap, because there's, most of your cast-ons are kind of loose and loom knitting. So I didn't want any obvious transitions, and I found the paracord concept is really good. So you'll need a small bit of paracord to go in and do your cast back on. So here's how this works. Normally, what do you do when you do a heel? You do half the pegs. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to go in, and I'm going to have to agree with Smitten Kittens on this one. Use these kinds of stitch markers. It'll kind of keep it soft and easy. You can use stitch holders, okay? But I find it's probably going to be pretty difficult to get it wedged up in here to put them back on, okay? So what you want to do is you want to take half the stitches, and you're going to take put the stitch marker in there, pull it off, and pull it to the center of the loom. So what you want to do is you want to go in and take and put a stitch marker on half the stitches. So you're going to take off half the stitches for the heel. Alright, and take it off. So you're going to do that and I'm doing on the 40 pegs, you're going to take off 20. So I'm going to take off 20 stitches and using the stitch markers, okay? So pause the video, get that much done on whatever loom you're doing, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we see half our stitches have been removed. We're going to try to get these stitch markers as much out of the way as possible. And now we're going to be starting the paracord, and you're going to put that in between, okay? Alright, you're going to wrap that, you're going to put that down, and you're going to wrap it around cord, okay? Then you're going to go up under, you're going to go up under the paracord here, you're going to go up under it, you see? Then you're going to wrap the front of the stitch, go up under the paracord, wrap the front of the stitch, go up under the paracord, wrap in front of the stitch, up under, and wrap in front of the peg. And you're going to do this all the way over. And because you have a strip of paracord, you can just pull it through at the end, as you can see here, so that it doesn't get all knotted up. Okay, and you can see what we're doing here. Alright, so you're going to take the working yarn up under the paracord, over, and in front of the peg. Under the paracord, over it, and in front of the peg. Under the paracord, over the paracord, and in front of the peg. Over, under, over, and in front. Under, over, in front. Under, over, and in front. Under, over, and in front. Okay, and it looks the same all the way through. Okay, so under, over, and in front, 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 and under, and over. And there you go. You have now casted back on your stitches. Okay, and at this point you're just going to work the sock like you normally would. Okay, so you start from whatever after the heel would be. So you're going to start on the foot part, and you're just going to work it like you normally would. You'll knit over those stitches, and you just continue on, and then your next step is going to be taking and putting these stitches you have here onto stitch markers like we've just done with these, and then I will show you how to add it to the other loom. Okay, and the reason why I like working with setting up the Afterthought on the round loom is that you have more room to work with on the whole adding. It's a little tight when you work on the long loom. This might give you a little trouble, the first one. There we go. And as you can see, I am just knitting them over as they are normal stitches. Alright. So go ahead and pause the video, complete the sock or whatever you're doing. This is just my sample I do, so I'm going to do, say, 3 more rows of knit rows, and then my 10 rows of a rib stitch, which is what I've been doing. I've been making sure there's 5 rows for the front half of the heel area, and then 10 rows of a 2x2 rib stitch on the top and bottom if you're wanting to try just doing a sample rather than a whole sock, because you are investing a lot of time to create a whole sock and then go back and do a heel. So if you want to try a sample like I'm doing right now, then you want to knit 10 rows of rib stitch, then 2 rows of knit, then do this technique, then do 3 rows of knit, and then 10 rows of a rib stitch. Okay, and you'll have your sample that you can be working on. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and finish up your sample or your sock, and we will go from here and showing you how to add the stitches to the loom and how to decrease. And I'm also going to explain that when I go and after I add the stitches back, I will explain that the Afterthought and the Drawstring toe on this are exactly the same and how you want to do them. Okay? Alright, well, go ahead and pause the video, get the rest of your sample or sock done, and then we will go from there. Okay, we have finished the sample, or you have finished your sock, and you are now ready to take these stitches and be ready to add them to this loom. So what you want to do is, I want to know where my starting point is, and that's going to be this stitch right here. Okay, and I'm going to use a bit of a drastically different stitch marker. I'm going to use one with color. Okay, and this gives me my starting stitch. Alright, so you want to try and shove that stitch marker up in there as best you can. If you have a more distinct stitch marker you can use, you can try that as well. There we go. Okay, there's my starting stitch. Alright, now what you want to do is you want to go in and you want to put a stitch marker in each of the stitches on here. Okay, and you want to do that all the way across so that you have basically a whole bunch of stitch markers. And what you should be able to do when you are done is pull the paracord out like that. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and get your stitch markers on there, and then you can pull the paracord out, and you should have 40 stitches with stitch markers on them. Okay, so pause the video, get that much done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I now have all my stitches marked. Okay, which means I'm ready to start adding them back to the loom. Okay, alright, so what we want to do is we want to pull that front half away as far as possible, and then the other thing we want to do is find where our first stitch is. Okay, so that we have as very little as possible to pull up, because this is a very narrow space to do that with. Okay, so I like working from a counterclockwise position, and what you want to do is you want to pull these stitches up in here. So what you want to do is get as many of the stitch markers up through here as possible. Alright, and you'll want to spread them out. Okay, alright, so what you want to do is you want to find your first stitch, and you want to place it on your first peg, which is going to be this one right here. Then you're going to find your second, and you're going to place it onto the peg. Okay, and what you'll find is you'll see that they are leaning. You want them to look like this stitch is going to follow the next one smoothly. Okay, alright, so what we want to do is we want to find the next one. You want to make sure that the stitches aren't twisted, is basically what's going on. And then you want to find the next one, and you want to put all these stitches onto the pegs. Okay, you want to make sure that the stitches are not twisted. Alright, and then once you have all the stitches on here, then you want to go ahead and you want to take all the stitch markers off. So go ahead, pause the video, get all your stitches on, and get all the stitch markers off, and then we'll be ready to start the actual Afterthought heel. Okay, so pause the video, get that much done, and then we will go from here. We have our stitches on, as you can see. And I'm going to let you know that if you end up having like a single extra stitch, you want to overlap one of those stitches on the corners. Alright, whether it's on the edges, okay? So what you want to do is you want to take your working yarn, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch here, and I'm going to place it on that first peg. Okay, and then what I want to do is, for my first round, I just want to knit, alright, just to kind of make sure that everything moves smoothly the next round. Because what you'll do is you'll do decrease by 4, and then you'll do 3 regular rounds, okay? So for one, you want to go in and you want to knit around. And for some reason I ended up with an extra stitch. I didn't the first time I did this, so I have no idea what that's about. So I just added on the corner, and I'll tell you that that's the best way to solve that problem, okay? You just add that stitch as an overlap so that you stay even. Okay. And we have reached our first round. So after you do one round of knit, this is where you're going to start your decrease. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to unscrew your wedge, and you're going to move it down to the next aligned pegs, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this stitch over here, and you're going to decrease it down here. Then you're going to take this stitch over here, and you're going to take it off the loom. That's your slip stitch, so it may give you a little bit more trouble, but it shouldn't after that. And decrease it down. 1. There. And no, it won't be like that. It's because you're decreasing so quickly. But you don't want to be doing too many rows. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to untwist it, and you're going to move that wedge in 1 down 1 parallel. So you want your wedge pieces to line up with the next one, okay? And then you're going to move it and decrease and decrease. Okay. Now what you're going to do is, at this point, you're going to knit those 2 stitches together on your decrease. So you're going to knit your way around, and that is your first decrease. Now, here's something to keep in mind. I am going to be decreasing down to 16 total stitches. And what this means in English is, you know how much you normally decrease down to. Alright, well, you would decrease down to, say, 8 stitches, like I would on here, like I was doing for the gussets, okay? You may want to decrease down to 8 stitches because it doesn't come out evenly. So what you'd want to do is keep in mind that if you'd normally decrease down to 8 stitches, times that by 2 and you get 16, okay? Because if you recall, when you decrease down, you've got 2 sides connecting together. So I am going to be decreasing down to 16 stitches. Now if you want to decrease down to the 6 stitches rather than the 12 stitches rather than down to 16, then instead of doing 3 rows in between your decrease rows, you'll need to do 2 rows of knit in between your decrease rows. Now you may be asking, what is the purpose of a Afterthought heel? This is where you can do cool kind of a bullseye effect, where after you do so many rows you switch colors, and then you do so many rows and you switch colors, and then you can have like a bullseye effect. That's the benefit of doing an Afterthought heel. It can give you cool options on a kind of whirlpool kind of thing going on. So I've just worked my way around, and now I'm going to do 3 rounds of knit, and then I'll show you one more round of how to decrease, and then I'm going to tell you to pause the video and get yourself decreased down to however many pegs you want. Now if you're wanting to decrease down to a smaller number, the smaller number, you only want to do 2 rows rather than 3 of knit. Alright, so I'm fixing to do 3 rows of knit because I'm going down to 16. But let's say you wanted to take this number of stitches and go down to 12. Do a decrease row, then do 2 rows single. Decrease row, and then 2 rows single. Okay. So I'm going to go in and do my 3 rounds of knit. And then I will come back and I will show you another decrease row. And then I will tell you to go off and decrease down to the number of pegs you want to decrease down to, and then I will show you how to go in and finish up your heel. Now I also want you to keep in mind that if you've done a sock and you're getting down to a toe and you want to do this method, you can do the same exact method for the toe of a sock. So you can do it for the Afterthought heel, or you can do it for the toe of the sock, and it's a drawstring toe. Now I will show you the alternative on how to do what they call a round toe or a star heel. It's going to be more complicated and some stranger decreasing going on, alright? So, but for now we're going to teach you the basic Afterthought heel and the drawstring toe, which is the technique's the same. Once you have it on the pegs and you're working, it's getting your Afterthought heel set up that takes so much more time. But if you want to do a drawstring toe, I'll tell you this is how to do it as well. Okay, so pause the video, get your 3 or 2 rounds done depending on what you want to decrease down to, and then I'll show you another decrease on both sides so you know what that looks like, and then I'll leave it to you to decrease it down to the number of stitches you need, and then we'll go from there. Okay, now we've done our 3 rows. Now we want to decrease again. So here's our starting point. Loosen up the bottom, then move it in to the next paralleled stitches. Alright, then you want to take that stitch and you want to move it back one. Let's decrease. You want to take this stitch over here, stitch over here, and move it back one as a decrease. Sorry, I find long looms are difficult to get in this camera. Okay, you want to do the same thing with the other side. Loosen up the joint, move it down to the next paralleling stitches. And then you want to move those stitches that go past in one as a decrease on both sides. And you're now going to be decreasing by 4. At this point, knit your way around, knitting the 2 together on your decrease pegs. And you'll want to continue this every 4th row or 1st row, or however you want to do this, is a decrease with 3 rows of knit in the middle. But normally what you'd ever decrease down to, times it by 2, and that's what you're going to decrease down all the stitches to. Now in the end, you can drawstring it off, or you can Kitchener bind off those last few stitches for a very smooth end. Okay. Alright. Done another decrease. At this point, you want to do 3 rows of just straight out knit. Okay. So 3 rows, decrease, 3 rows, decrease, 3 rows, decrease until you're down to 16 or whatever your number would be. And then I will show you how I normally drawstring this off to finish it up. Okay, we're to the drawstring so that we can finish it up, and I've cut me a tail. And what you want to do, because you have so few stitches, is toss over and pull that tail through. Toss over and pull that tail through, and you're going to do this all the way around. Pull through the bottom and tighten up. And there you have it. And what you'll do is you'll go in and you will tie it off. Okay. And so this is your Afterthought heel. Okay. So that's what that looks like. Next, we're going to move on to the star heel or toe, which is the same concept as an Afterthought. It's just it's going to have more of a star pattern rather than just a straight line here, and I'll show you how that's done. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do the star heel and toe. And what you're going to do is, if you're doing the star heel, you want to do the Afterthought and all the stitch holders and put your stitches back and do a single row of knit. So you're going to go up to that point where you add all the stitches to the loom, and then you do a single row of knit. Okay, now if you are doing the star toe, we'll just start into this. Now there is going to be some stitch shuffling. Now I'm working with 40 stitches, and that comes out really evenly because you want to divide those 40 by 5, and of course you get 8. So every 8th stitch is going to actually be decreased. So your first stitch, you're definitely going to decrease. So you're going to decrease over, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to be dividing your stitches by 5, and you're going to be shuffling your stitches over. Okay, so your first one is 1, 2. Okay, you've decreased on your second peg, and then you go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, now you're going to be decreasing whatever number you get, and when you divide it by 5, you may have an odd number, so one may need to be, a couple may need to be more or less, but you're trying to get it as evenly as possible. So you may, because you're working with already an adjustable loom, you may want to work it to where you can easily get it to 5, 40, 35, that kind of thing. You can also get 36 and then kind of decrease by an extra to get 35, or work like that. Okay, so we've done our first 8. Now we're going to decrease that stitch over. Okay. And then we're going to go behind that and we're going to knit those two stitches together. And now that's the second peg. And so then you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright. Go ahead and move this wedge in by 1, just like you did on the other end. Okay. And then you're going to be having this decrease over. And now normally we would just decrease this way, but we want our decrease to go always the same direction. Okay, so you're actually going to pull that to the end to decrease. But the good thing is once you knit the two together, then you can pull the stitch back. Alright, like that. Okay. So that's your second stitch. So then you're going to go 3, 4. You're going to go back 1 because you're going to shuffle it down. 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright. Then you're going to decrease, which is peg 1, over to peg 2. You're going to knit those two together. Now, this should be an easy shuffle. Okay, you can pick up this one. Oops. Now you have a choice of, you can go in and you can take all these and you can move them over like this, or you can take all of them off and move them over all at once. It's up to you, but you're doing stitch shuffling here. So you're moving all the stitches over. Okay. Making it more even in that department. Alright. So you've just did your decrease, which is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright. Now you're going to take your first peg and you're going to decrease it over to your second. And you're going to knit those two together. And to make it easier, we're going to shuffle these stitches backwards. Alright. Okay. And then we're going to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now you'll know that you'll have one space here that isn't adding up. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to take and shuffle all these in that direction. Okay. Now I'm not going to say this isn't going to be a pain technique. It is. Might be easier just lift and move. So your biggest pain one is actually this one in the middle, but you can lift up all the stitches like I'm doing right now onto your hook and place them down. Sometimes it makes it a little easier. But you're shuffling all those stitches so they line up side by side is what you're trying to do. Now, you'll notice that this one's off by a little, and maybe to kind of make it a little less off, make it work somewhere in the middle. Okay. At this point, what you want to do is you want to work 4 rounds. Okay, and because you're decreasing 5 on the decrease round, you're going to do 4 rounds in between your decrease rows, okay? So what you want to do is you want to just knit your way around for 4 rounds. So pause the video and knit around all the way for 4 rounds, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what the next decrease is. And this time you're going to be decreasing on every, 7th. So, 1, 2 is your decrease, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you'll decrease that one, which is 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's kind of the idea. So, we just did 8, the next is 7, 6, 5, and 4. So we're probably going to get it down to 4, and then we'll probably do the drawstring, okay? But between each decrease row is going to be a 4 rows of knit, okay? So pause the video, get your 4 rows of knit done, and then we will go on to the next decrease row. Okay, I have done my 4 rows and I'm ready to do another decrease row. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually move my wedges in the full hole 1 like I've been doing, okay? Alright, so what we want to do is we want to decrease. There's 1, 2, knit those 2 together, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Then we're going to decrease again. So here's peg 1, move it over to peg 2, knit the 2 together. There's peg 2, so this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now you know you're going to move that one over to there, knit the 2 together, and that's your peg 2, and then there's 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7. You're going to decrease over 1, knit the 2 together, and then you can shuffle the stitches in. Okay, so you can shuffle those stitches in. Then you're going to, that's 1, 2, and then you're going to knit over 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you're going to decrease, knit the 2 together, and move it back 1, and move your stitches. Okay. So there we go. We're moving our stitches over. And there's your decrease. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now you know that you're going to need to shuffle this down this direction. Okay, and because it's right in the middle, what I think I'll do is shuffle these this direction here, so that we're kind of keeping it even on this side. I want to keep my starting point the same here because it'll make it easier to know what you're doing next. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to shuffle my stitches over. Okay. Okay. Now, what you want to do is pull it in about halfway. And I'm going to pull this in about halfway so it evens up the stitches a little bit more evenly. Okay. At this point, you're going to do your 4 rows of knit. So pause the video and do your 4 rows, and then we'll be calculating in for 6 pegs and are decreasing. Okay, so we just did 7 and we'll be doing 6 next. So pause the video, get your 4 rows done, and then we will go from there. Okay, we've done our 4 rows and we're fixing to need to do a decrease again. Okay, and we're going to be moving our starting peg over some, so we want to have our stitch marker ready. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to decrease that over and knit 2 together. Okay, and then I'm going to put a stitch marker up under that stitch. Alright, because what I want to do is I want to move these stitches so because you want to keep in mind where your first stitch always is, this is where your stitch marker comes into play. Okay, so we did pegs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now we're going to decrease again. Remember to stay in the same direction of the decrease because you want the line to go in that general same direction. Okay, so there's 1 and 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, we're going to shuffle the stitches back. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and move this completely forward. And the reason being is we're going to go ahead and we're going to decrease, knit those 2 together, and then we're going to pull this back over to here actually. So we're going to move it over 2, and then we're going to move this over, and then move this over. Okay, and that should start, and you kind of snug up that some. Okay, so that was 1 and 2, and then you're going to go 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, then you're going to decrease again. And you're going to knit those 2 together, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to decrease, knit those 2 together, move it back 1, move that one, move that in a whole one, then 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, so you're starting to see that we're doing a little bit of adjusting on the other side, trying to keep everything as evenly as possible. Now we're going to kind of move it down some, because what we want to do is we want to shuffle these in such a way that we get ourselves evened out. Alright. And if you want to shuffle these a little bit more, you can. So that there's a little more evening out. That's fine. Okay. Now at this point, what you want to do is you want to go in, and this is your starting point still, okay? Where you're going to do 4 rounds of knit, and then you will be stopping here. And we've just done 6, so our next number will be 5. We're going to go down to 3, okay? So our next number will be 5. Let's go ahead and pause the video, get your 4 rows done, and then we'll go from there. Now we're ready to do another decrease. So you know this is your starting point, so decrease it over. And we're going to definitely be moving that. And to make it a little easier, we'll just go ahead and pull this one over one. Okay, so knit those 2 together. And remember, we're calculating 5 rather than 6 now. So, I'm just going to lift that, put that in there. Okay, keeping up with our new starting point. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're going to decrease again, knit the 2 together as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go ahead and shuffle the stitches over. I'm going to go ahead and move that one in, a whole one. Okay. Then you're going to decrease that, which is 1, 2. Knit the 2 together. And then you can move that one over. And then take that stitch and move it over. And then you have 3, 4, 5. Then you're going to decrease. There's 1, 2, knit the 2 stitches together, and then go 3, 4, 5, decrease, knit the 2 stitches together, move that over, and we're going to go ahead and move that one in, a whole one. And then we'll do 3, 4, and 5. At this point, I think what I'll do is I will shuffle all of them back this direction. I'm not saying this is one of those easy heel toe, but that you can do it with 2 wedges. Okay. So we're just gonna move everything over, and our starting point is back where it needs to be. Okay. Okay, snag that up some. Okay, now you want to do your 4 rows of knit, and then our next one will be a 4 count for our pegs. So go ahead and pause the video and do 4 rows of knit. Okay, so I decided that 4 was actually too much, so I decided to go ahead and do those 4 rows, and then go ahead and do a drawstring off like normal. And what you're looking at is you want about that much, okay? And it looks like it might be too much of a point, but it does actually work around the heel. But what you want to do is you want to finish that up, and then shove that in there. And then just go in and tie it off. And try to do as minor of a tie off as possible so it doesn't show up. Okay. You don't want too much bulk there. Okay. And then snip your end. And as you can see, it has more of a rounded area to it because the decreasing was even all the way around, as you can see. Okay, so that's how you do your star toe method or heel. And that is your other option for your Afterthought. I personally would stick with the other version. This one I find is rather complicated and keeping up and stitch shuffling and decreasing and everything, so I personally would do the other option, but this allows you to have the choice. So that's how you do the star, toe, or heel. You can do it either way. Okay?